Hi, this is Tanya Sheridan with InAllSassiness.com, and today I am going to feature and showcase to you my Perpetual calendar, my Sassy version. The calendar itself was designed by Close to My Heart, and then I gave my own sassy flair to it. So I'm actually going to break down this series into 6. So each session I will be teaching you 2 months of the calendar. Now the calendar, as it was designed, is a perpetual calendar. I believe you receive 14 sheets, so you have 2 extra if you mess up or what have you, and it also comes on a wooden base. So for me, you can actually buy the calendar, the pages, and my pieces to create the accents, or you can just buy the pieces by themselves and do something different with them. I've had several people do both options. So I wanted to show you one of the options. So as I said, this is January. This is the full version, and I've had a couple people ask, well, can you make smaller ones? So I'm going to show you how to convert this into a 5x5 piece that you could then mat on a 6x6 piece of cardstock. You could double mat it, what have you. You could do it in a 6x6 album. You could do it on a layout, or just do a different type of like a desk calendar. But this piece here is 5 by 5 1/4. So there's very little difference in the 2 pieces. So we're going to create this just as it is here on the smaller or the different orientation. So the only real difference is down here. You will notice that you have 2 strips of colored glitter paper. You have the sapphire and the bluebell, and you can do them whichever way you want. You'll notice that I cut those a little bit bigger for you so that you could fit them perfectly and then trim them to fit. Or if you wanted to dovetail them, I guess you could do that as well. But I try when I do my kits to not cut it to the exact measurement, just in case the trimmer goes slightly to the left or the right. You don't want to come up short with your strips. So it wasn't a mismeasurement. They were cut a little bit larger on purpose. So for this one, in converting it to a 5x5, we're actually not going to use those strips. So I'm going to set them aside. Before we get started, I do want to tell you some of the tools that I'm using so that you can pause and grab them if you need to. I'm going to be using a piercing tool, the clear shimmer brush, that is optional, but I used it. Of course, a pair of scissors. I'm using our thin foam tape, but the wide. So that is an option to you as well. My adhesive runner, and then the glue. And I'm using the Tombow Mono Liquid Glue, the blue one. You could use, liquid glass or another version from another company or whatever you have on hand, but this is the one that I've chosen that I really like. Okay, so let's get started. The one thing to note on here is you want to make sure that you're working with the top and then the top of the number. So some people found it easier to just kind of mask that off with washi tape or with another piece of paper so that they could visualize the spacing better. That's totally up to you. Some of the pages we will have to be very careful of the circle up here where it attaches to the board. For this page, it's not really a big deal, but just something to kind of think about and so forth. So I've already told you about the strips. You should have a little packet. And inside the packet is another packet. I tried my best to keep these as organized as possible. And one of my girlfriends returned all of her bags the other day, and it was like, wow, that's a lot of bags that we used. So, but I feel like that was easier than just throwing them all together in one big bag. I think you guys would have been throwing not so happy bling at me. Okay, so the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna build our little snowman. So you should have a blue glitter base. Then you're going to have a white glitter topping. And so for this, you can use the liquid glue, or you can use glue dots. I'm going to use glue dots just because it's easier for the video purpose. The regular adhesive runner I found does not attach well to the top of glitter paper. So it's really up to you how you want to adhere it. I kind of jump back and forth. I'm not really consistent with myself. Whatever I think will work for that particular project is what I use. I am putting about 6, looks like maybe 5 on the body. Whoops, that one didn't stick. And 1 on the head. Okay, so then I'm going to line up the white snowman. And I cut it a little bit slightly larger. the blue slightly larger than the white. And I did that on purpose because I wanted you to be able to see the seam. Now, if you don't like the look of that seam, which kind of creates like a shadow effect, then you could just simply take your scissors and snip it off. But I really liked that effect, and so that's why I added it. And then I'm going to put on my little hat. And my little hat, again, I'm going to do with my glue dots. If you wanted to use foam tape, you certainly could. I opted not to, but you most certainly could. So we're going to add that to his little hat. I love this hat. It's the whole snowman, actually. He is cut from one of our Cricut collections. I honestly do not remember which one because I used Design Space, and so I just went into all of the Close to My Heart images and grabbed the ones that I liked for this whole calendar. Okay, so that is my snowman guy. He is all good, right? Okay, so then the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of just move him off, and we're gonna pull out all these little banners. And so you should have enough to spell out the word January. And what you want to do is kind of position them first to make sure that you have your angle correct. So, I mean, each time could be a little bit different. I've made several of these, and each of mine have a little bit different of an angle. You could do a straight if you wanted more straight. You can, you know, do it curved, more whimsical, however you want it to go. I think that is pretty close for me. That is good for me. So then what I found is I'm using the wide of Close to My Heart's thin tape. So we have thin tape and regular foam tape, and each comes in a wide and a narrow. So this is the wide, and it almost completely supports the little pennants perfectly. You don't have to do 2 layers or anything like that. So I'm going to put one on each piece, and you'll notice I'm just going to leave the rest of my pieces there. I'm not going to really move them. I'm not going to move them all off at once. That way I can keep my form. Just realized I was missing one there. So I'm going to have to shift my pieces just a little bit. So Januar, and here's my Y. Okay, so that means I need to shift it a little bit because I have too much space in that one, but not a big deal. We'll still make it work. It'll just kind of look like Jay is off in La La Land, right? Okay, so here's the next one. I'm gonna do that one. We're gonna pull another one off. It is a little bit time consuming. I had toyed with the idea of doing this and have everything pre-adhered, but I know that some of you like to work along with me, so I figured I would go that route instead. Get the last one. Okay, so now you'll see I'm right up to the edge, and I'm okay with that. So I'm going to do my letters absolutely last, but I have the spacing of the banner. The next thing that we want to do is do the flourish. So I'm just going to take my tape runner, and I'm going to just kind of hold it down to position it. I want to cover the flourish. Again, be very careful of those numbers if you're doing the standard page. I'm going to put adhesive. Make sure you catch the little snowman's arms so that with adhesive, so that they don't pop up, because those are a little bit fragile. They were pretty fragile for the Cricut, so we don't want to mess with those. Okay, So then what I'm going to do is I have all of these little snowflakes. And I am going to arrange the snowflakes however you want, truthfully. You can do it just like I did, or you can do it, you know, your own little direction. And because these are so fragile, I'm just using a little bit of glue to hold them down. And I'm going to position them. And I didn't purposefully, I did a few of my tips, but if you'll notice here, my tips are coming upward. I purposely did that so that they would look more authentic. So the glue is more or less in the center, and then there's some, you know, here and there on the tips. So there's my second one. Again, you don't have to do yours like mine. You can do your snowflakes however you want. It never hurts my feelings when you take creative liberties. This one, I'm just going to do the tips because there is no true center. I'm going to put that one about there. And again, if you have that hole, you're going to want to be a little bit more careful with your positioning. We're going to do this one. We have two of these little guys down here. So there's one. The second one, you could also, if you're more comfortable, you could do it this way. I'm more comfortable putting it on the snowflake, but either way works, okay? And then there's this last little one, and this one is probably the trickiest because there's really not much to adhere to it. I tried it with my tape runner, and I found that it really didn't work. Now, John would tell you to use the Xyron, but I have a hard time with the Xyron with really intricate pieces. Okay, so then you'll notice that you have 4 little gems, and of course you can put those wherever you want. I am putting a small one in the center up here. And what I usually do is I put it down and then use my piercing tool to slide it exactly into place and to press down. And the other one is kind of over here in La La Land. Just trying to create that scene. And then we have the 2 big ones. So this one is going to go right down here. And then the other one, I guess I mixed them up somehow, but that's okay. It's going to kind of ground the snowman over there. Okay, so then that is all that there is to that one, with the exception of doing your letters. Now, if you follow me on my blog, which is also inallsassiness.com, and I also have a shop, I also use this same little snow scene and snowmen in cards. And they turned out adorable. So if you love this little guy and you're not like in Hawaii, you might want to check it out. Okay, so with these, because they are very intricate, and if you remember correctly, I said it's very hard to attach the letters or anything to glitter with regular adhesive. I'm just using that glue. And I'm trying to hold them down a little bit. I don't want it to ooze, but I do want them to attach to the glitter paper. And I'm kind of making a mess all over my hands, but that's okay. If you use Xyron and you're comfortable with it, that might be a good, I think it's been so long since I've used it, but I think that there's a stronger hold, if I remember correctly. And that might work well for you. I think the Xyron would be easier for the letters than on the snowflakes because it's an easy cut. Okay, so some of you might have A's, like mine, that the center did not pop out of. And so you can just use that little piercing tool like I just did to do the centers of those A's. I think this is such an adorable set, and I love, love, love these color combinations together. The sapphire is our, the bluebell is our color of the year, and the sapphire just complements it so pretty. I think my family is sick of my love for these two colors together. I cannot tell you how many pieces of both glitter papers have been cut in my house since September. I would say well into the hundreds. And my Cricut certainly is reflective over it. So this is my last letter. I'm going to put that on. Now, if it helps, once you are done, let it dry loosely for a little bit, but then you could put something heavier on it. Put a piece of wax paper down first, but put something heavier on this whole piece, especially on the titles, and it'll make sure that that glue, it holds awfully tight. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, I'm gonna actually move this one out because this one has enough glitter. I'm gonna take my shimmer brush, and I'm using the clear. Now we do have a bluebell, which would look very pretty, but I used the clear. At the time I designed this, we didn't have that one. And I'm just gonna tap it. I'm gonna squeeze it off on a little scrap piece of paper. And I'm just gonna tap it all over with my finger. I'm gonna dip into my little pool a little bit more. There we go. Those are bigger snowflakes. And allow it to dry. Now, when I did mine, my original one, I was very careful, and I covered up the pages, the actual number part. So I put a piece of paper like from here down so that the glitter and shimmer didn't come down here, because that would make it harder to write with. So guys, that is it for January. So I'm gonna set this aside, and I'm gonna take a wipe real quick because I don't want the shimmer to get on, or the wetness. I don't care about the shimmer because we're a glitter household. But I'm gonna wipe down this and let it dry for a quick second. And then we're gonna move on to the next one. So while that is drying, sorry, I didn't grab a towel. For this one, you're going to have a few different pieces. Oh, thank you. So we're just gonna dry it off real quick. I should have done reverse, but that's okay. Okay. So for February, you have a few different type of things. This one looks a little bit different than the other months. So you have this stencil, which you can use. You have shimmer trim, you have a bag of hearts, and then you have your title, okay? So you have lots of different pieces. So again, for this one, you have the shimmer trim, which it's a whole piece. So the whole piece is gonna go down here at the bottom, not just, let me slide it up so the camera can catch it. So the whole piece. So on January, you had the two different colors, the narrow. This is gonna be wider of that one. But we're not gonna use that in the size that we're using today. So I'm gonna set that aside. I'm gonna move all my little bags aside. So you might be thinking, okay, Tanya, what on earth is that for? Well, this comes from a thin cut die that Close to My Heart sells, and I thought I grabbed it, but I must not have. Oh, there it is. It looks like this, and so it has all of this beautiful stitching and all these really cute hearts. And so I've done a lot with this, and you can see ideas on how to use this on my blog and in my shop. But for this point, I use this as basically just a stencil, okay? So to get all of the pinks, you might be saying, wow, I'm familiar with Close to My Heart and I've never seen those before. That is because we don't have that as pattern paper. It is the shimmer trim. So I covered a full piece of paper with shimmer trim, then ran it through the machine, the die cutting machine. There's one little heart that won't fall out, like this. And actually it looks like this. You can see I did the shimmer trim this way, ran it through, and that's how I got my really, really bright glittery hearts, because we didn't have ones like that. So what we're gonna do with this one is we are going to piece together all of the hearts into the little puzzle. So I must have set the big one aside, so I'm gonna have my helper get a big one for me, but we'll go ahead and start. So here you can see this one goes up there. For this one, I just used the regular adhesive, and most of yours will be the exact same as the sample. There are a few other ones that are not going to be the exact same. And it's mainly the tiny, tiny baby hearts, because if you notice on the template, it only cuts a couple. And so it just wasn't incredibly counterintuitive. Okay, you know what? I think I'm gonna drop this down a little bit. Sorry, I started too high. There we go. Okay, so this is down here more. This is one that you do need to watch that heart. So, or that hole. So find your hole, line it up however it best fits, but that is one that you're gonna wanna be cautious of. I'm not gonna have to be cautious of that because I'm not using that piece. Here is my big heart. But what I was saying is this only cut out a few of the baby hearts. So you should have more silver and not as many colored ones as I have for the tiny ones. But basically it's just like a jigsaw puzzle. Now you could tape this down. I haven't had any problem really with it moving, but you could use washi tape if that makes you feel better to tape it down. Now this big one here I am not going to do, okay? I did do both of the pink ones, and then this little guy is a silver one. And again, you can mix these up. You can freelance. You don't even have to use the stencil if you don't want to. That's totally fine. I am the world's worst, I kid you not, of doing random alignment, random stamping. It always looks too strategically planned and not enough random. So something like that helps me keep my spacing and my colors the way that I want them, and so forth. Okay, so I think that one over there is red. Again, you don't have to follow. Now, the one cool thing is because you needed the stencil to do it like mine, if that's the way you're choosing it, then you could now use the stencil for something else when you're all done. And that would be, you know, you could use it with a card or a layout. Oops, I don't want to put the adhesive over my calendar. So it's truly just filling the blank. There's another little one up there, which I think I'm going to do pink. Now you'll notice that our template is not as large as our piece. So once we get all of the ones in that we want, then we're going to have to freelance a little bit. Now, if you're doing the Perpetual calendar, at the very bottom, I'll slide this up so you can see, you'll notice that there is one red heart, and that one is popped up on foam tape, just to make it stand out a little bit more. You certainly don't have to do that, but that is what I chose to do. The little guys are really, really tricky because they're really, really little. Do this one. I tell I've been using my adhesive too much because everything is sticking to my fingers. Okay, so this one here I'm not going to do. So it looks like I just have my little baby ones left. And so you can do those however you want. The baby ones might be better to do with the glue, if you're more comfortable with that. Piercing tool could help you too if you're having a hard time getting them in the hole. Whoops. Getting them in the holes like that one. That one is going to be stubborn, isn't it? There we go. I've done a scrapbook layout with this template too, and it turned out so adorable. Okay, I think that was it on my, I don't think I had any little baby pink ones. So we're just gonna, no, that's silver. Okay, so I am not gonna put one here because that is pretty much where your hole is. Now, when you go to take your template off, most likely they're gonna stick to the outsides. So I just used my piercing tool to press them down so that they don't come off. The little ones are gonna be your hardest, but we can fix that. So you kind of just do it one heart at a time, My piercing tool is putting them into place so that they don't pop off when I pull the stencil off. Now, if you don't like this way, another way that you could do it is you could trace, so put the stencil down with your pencil, trace the hearts, pull it back up, and then glue these on top of the hearts. But I'm not that coordinated, so I didn't try that one. Okay, so that has them basically where we want them to go. This little guy I think was right in there or so. Okay, so then we have extras, and you're just going to use the extras however you want. You want to still try to keep that same spacing. So some of them, like that little pink heart, I moved up a little bit. I'm going to put another silver one over here. You can turn them any which way you want. You just want to make sure that you have enough for both sides so it looks evenly dispersed. And this die is still available from Close to My Heart, the last time I checked. It is in the Well Supplies Last, or the online only section, but it is an absolutely fabulous, fabulous die. If you're watching this in January, early February, it would be great to do Valentine's. I think I'm probably going to use it for most of my Valentines this year. And probably this heart pattern because I've cut so many out of it. Okay, so over here we're going to do another little one. Right there. I missed one somewhere. I'm not sure where that one went, but that's okay. This one goes up here, and this last one, it looks like maybe goes this way. Okay, so that is what that looks like. So then what you're gonna do, isn't that so Valentine-ish? I just love it, love it, love it, love it. I might have to do a whole layout with that like as a border because it's totally cool in those colors. Okay, so then in your title bag, which is your long bag, you have your word February. And you do want to make sure, it would be really cute at an angle. I think I'm going to do this one at an angle. But you want to make sure when you're putting it down, because it was cut from Cricut. I think this is one of the only things that was not a Close to My Heart image. And it is very intricate. So you don't want to have to pull it down. But in the same time, I don't know if I can zoom in so that you can see this or not, but when you're using your runner, you almost have to hold down the whole thing because you don't want your runner to tear your title. I've had that happen and it's really frustrating just because some of these pieces are so detailed, like the little loops, and you want them to stick down. Okay, so then this one is going to go just about like that. Again, it's at your discretion if you want it straight or at an angle, but I like the playfulness of the angle. Okay, so I think that that is done. If you wanted to shift, I think I'm going to shift that one down just a tad. That is one of the awesome things about the Close to My Heart tape runner, is that you have a little bit of wiggle room before it becomes permanent to move things around. So since my title didn't go straight, I have a little bit more space down here. But that is it for the February. Again, I have one extra. That would be the one that goes down there, as well as the shimmer trim. And on the next video, I will show you how to create the same thing for March and April, but using a different type of a space. Okay? So have a great night, guys, and whatever you do, make it sassy.